Hey, how's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for joining us for this NXT Gold Rush version of the Plate Exchange. It's been a few weeks since we've actually gone live. I'm going to turn my camera here a little bit. Man, I need to drop some pounds. But either way, I'm looking, this camera view is not flattering at all. But we've taken a couple of weeks of some R&R. You haven't posted a lot as of late, but we're back as we approach Money in the Bank weekend. Coming up this Saturday from London, our honorary OTRA, Paige and fam will be there, so we appreciate them going back out to get us another live viewing out there, so another fun trip in London at the O2 Arena. I hope they have a blast. But we're here because, for anyone who's joined us before, our show is called Plate Exchange, and that's where we take our replica title belts and take the time to put the plates on them. Now, since we last joined you guys for an episode, it's been definitely a world of turmoil in terms of new championship belts, as we actually have introduced 4 new championships to WWE, as Roman Reigns' undisputed WWE championship has been fused together now into a single championship belt. We also have a new World Heavyweight Championship belt on Monday Night Raw in the hands of Seth Freakin Rollins. More on that shortly. And then also we have 2 new Women's Championships to kind of end the debate in terms of why the Raw title is being defended on Smackdown and vice versa, as now we have the undisputed WWE Women's Champion in the form of Asuka now on Smackdown, and we also have the new Women's World Champion in the form of Rhea Ripley now defending on Monday Night Raw. So those championship belts, thanks to our wonderful sponsors and followers, thank you guys so much for helping out. But ultimately those belts have been ordered, and they are on their way in a little while. However, we are right now being projected, I believe, at August at earliest, and may close in on like November before we actually have them in hand. But they are in the transit, so in the meantime, we're going to continue to use the Raw and SmackDown women's titles as well as Roman's Universal Championship should we need to. In the meantime, we have no acceptable replica for Seth's new championship, so we will just be acknowledging his plates. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and hop to that, as we're going to go ahead and acknowledge our first of what is going to be 4 championship title changes, and that was first the new World Heavyweight Championship. It was crowned in Saudi Arabia a couple of weeks ago, with ultimately Seth freaking Rollins defeating the phenomenal AJ Styles to win the championship for the very first time, and we have already been luckily privileged to be given access to his new championship plates. Most people remember his title plates from when he was the Architect right after his time with the Shield, but they have updated his logo along the way, and inevitably we have already gained access to his new plates. They are available on WWE Shop. We're going to give you a nice view there as best as possible. The reflection doesn't really help. There we go. But ultimately, his plates available on WWE Shop as well as associated WWE Shop stores. But we do have early access, as we typically do with most of the WWE's plates. Unfortunately, no belt to put them on yet. But we are, as I said, it's been ordered. Just got to wait for it to show up. And right now, the projected date for, I believe, his championship is like Halloween. So it could be a little bit before we're actually able to do that. But we'll have some type of, unboxing special or something. I know we've been asked about that whenever we get new stuff about doing an unboxing episode or something. So that might be something that might be in the works, but we'll see how all that pans out. As I said, we've got a new champion, at least on Monday Night Raw. They went nearly a year with Roman ultimately pillaging both the the Universal and inevitably the WWE Championship belt away from Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 38. So Raw for nearly a calendar year plus ultimately did not have a defending world champion. Obviously that's been changed, and Seth Rollins has wasted no time making himself a fighting champion. He's defended against the likes of Damian Priest. He's also gone down to NXT and has faced Braun Breaker in a championship match as well. And he'll be defending this upcoming Saturday at Money in the Bank against former rival Finn Balor. Balor holding a lot of negative emotions due to him being unable to keep the championship due to injury, despite beating Seth for the first Universal Championship back when it was the red title. We have that over there as well. So Finn always seemingly holding a grudge against Seth for all that time. And so we will see that rivalry renewed and perhaps a new champion in the process. Can Balor finally bring first men's gold to the Judgment Day, as Rhea Ripley, Mommy, has done her part in holding the women's world title? So it's just a matter of time of seeing things. But that championship, as I said, will be defended. If you're interested in hearing our previews and predictions, we also host a show called Top Rope Spoilers. Most of our followers are aware of those, but we do take the time to give our thoughts and our predictions in terms of any WWE or NXT Premium Live event. That includes Money in the Bank coming up this Saturday, so we are going to have our show tomorrow. Follow us on YouTube, and you can actually make your voice heard. The polls will go live tomorrow at 10 a.m., and everybody gets an opportunity to throw their votes in with the, end of the season, which ends at WrestleMania. We see if we can be able to do better than our followers, and as well can our followers be able to hang with us, who we feel are wrestling experts, if you will. So we'll put that in quotes. But either way, let's get to our first belt that is actually being exchanged, and that is going to be the Women's Tag Team Championships, which have actually kind of had two stories to them since we had our last episode. They are currently in the possession of the new champions, which are Rowdy Ronda Rousey and the submission magician Shayna Baszler. Now, since we've actually exchanged the plates, which were previously won, several weeks ago, they also have now since fused with the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, which were held by Isla Dawn and Alba Fyre. But this past week on Smackdown, they had a unification match, a match that was ultimately won by Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler to fuse the two championships into one undisputed championship. That has been successfully done. So at this point, the NXT tag team, women's tag team titles are essentially considered defunct at this point. However, there has not been an episode of NXT since. That's going to change here in about a half hour. So we will see if there are going to be any mentions of those championships back on NXT, or if ultimately those titles are now gone. They are defining the women's tag team titles now as the undisputed women's tag team titles, as they will be defending against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, the former champions, this upcoming Saturday at Money in the Bank as well. Again, preview and prediction show tomorrow. So we will see if the team of Rousey and Baszler are able to best the former champions and keep the gold in hand. With that being the case, though, at least for the time being, it does appear that we are going to be staying with the WWE Women's Tag titles. So we are going to remove our generic plates, bring that a little bit closer. Anybody who's seen the belt knows what that looks like. I'm having to work with the reverse camera here. And with that, we will add on our plates. Both of these have appeared on belts before, as Shayna has been a tag team champion before, Ronda Rousey having won every championship that is on the available main roster. So those titles are now set. There is the Ronda Rousey plate. Let everybody get a good look at that. And then here is the Shayna Baszler plate, just her standard logo across the belt as well, or across the plate as well, excuse me. So with that, we'll go ahead and get them on here. So what I'm curious to find out from our followers, anybody watching this live is welcome to throw something into the comments section here. We appreciate any thoughts you throw in here. Anybody watching this later on our social media, such as YouTube, make sure you throw your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys think. But do you think that WWE made the correct move in terms of fusing the two women's tag titles together? Anyone who remembers, the women's tag team titles for NXT were created because the only time that NXT teams ever got a shot at the titles was immediately following the Mae Young Classic or the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Title Tournament, one of the two. And inevitably, the NXT team would have the champions come down, but they would never end up winning. And so it started to feel disrespectful towards the NXT teams, and immediately after following what was kind of an underhanded defense at the time by, I believe it was Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax at the time, ultimately they ended up creating the NXT Women's Tag Team titles that ironically were won originally by Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez at the time, but ultimately they, of course, would have their falling out, and the rest would end up being history. But at the end of the day, they ended up going for a while, but it just seemed like those titles never took off, and now they're fused together into an undisputed Women's Tag Team Championships. Do you believe that was the right move, and do you feel that this is going to be the momentum that the Women's Tag Team titles now need? Of course, infamously, everybody remembers about a year ago that two former WWE employees, Sasha Banks and Naomi, now known as Mercedes Moné and Trinity, for their respective new shows, both left because they felt that this championship was not getting the praise and glamour that they felt it deserved. They were willing to give up their jobs to try to prove this point, and now we look at it and say, okay, a year later, has anything truly changed? So we'll see what you think, but I'm curious to get your thoughts in the comments. We all are. But this is our new women's tag team titles. The Ronda Rousey plates on one side, the Shayna Baszler plates on the other. So see if I can pull it back far enough to get a decent look. Again, the lighting in here kind of throws it off just a hair, but still nice nonetheless. But that's our first of two plate exchanges here. And don't worry, we've got it timed out for anybody who's here before NXT. First of all, thank you so much for taking a few minutes. It's dinner time here on the East Coast. I got dinner over there waiting for me when this is over. Thank you so much, Alyssa, in there for sweetly cooking that for me. I've got the greatest people work with and be at my side at all times. So, when you can see them tomorrow, make sure you send them a hearty thank you from all of us, because they're the backbone of what I do, and I'm always so appreciative of both of them. But with that, we move on to our other two belts, as we've got about 10 more minutes here that I'm going to try to get all this in to make sure that you guys can get ready for Gold Rush. I got my Carmelo Hayes T-shirt on here. We're looking forward to seeing Carmelo get his first Big Show title defense since he retained over Braun Breaker a few weeks ago. Of course, he made his Raw debut last night in a unfortunate singles loss to Finn Balor. I'm kind of surprised that one went the way that it did, but ultimately, it is what it is. But now he will defend tonight at Gold Rush against Baron Corbin, and we'll see if he's able to continue to keep moving forward as such. That being said, there is one other championship that's being defended tonight on Gold Rush, and it's one that we want to acknowledge here on our show, and that is the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship. As you were aware, it was vacated by Indy Hartwell when she ultimately took not only an injury, but also was called up to the main roster. So the title for several weeks was defuncted and ultimately held in abeyance as we crowned a new champion through a tournament. And at the most recent NXT event, it was crowned with the new first-time champion, Tiffany Stratton. Tiffy Tuesday, she ended up defeating Lyra Valkyria in the finals of the tournament to win the title for the first time. She's had the championship for about 4 weeks, and will be I don't know about successfully. Well, I guess we'll find that out here in a little bit. But she will be defending her championship for the very first time this evening at Gold Rush against Thea Hale of Chase U. This will be her first opportunity to also potentially be able to be sporting some plates, as up to this point she has been sporting just the standard NXT replica plates, which, I'm going to get a little zoom in here. They're nothing overly spectacular, just the standard NXT plates. I think she might have the ones actually that might go fully up and down, but these are the generic ones that typically come with the new title belts. But right now, she doesn't have any, so obviously we don't either. If Miss Stratton herself can't even get it, can't get plates, then, it is what it is. And speaking of Miss Stratton, thank you so much for following us on here on TikTok. I know we don't get an opportunity to post much, but it was so, I figured for sure it was going to be a bot or something, but ultimately, it ended up being Miss Stratton herself, as we, I guess, liked a couple of things, and she saw our plate exchange show, so, hey, we can't wait to see what your plates are going to look like and can sport them. Good luck tonight against the Hale. And we did want to make mention of that, of course, when her plates come in. It'll be a part of a forthcoming show, so no worries there. And that does bring us to the last championship that we will be unveiling in terms of the new plates. And that is, I guess, what is now called the WWE Undisputed Women's Championship, which has replaced the Raw Women's Championship, ironically, on Smackdown. This championship for over a year was held by Bianca Belair, but most recently in Saudi Arabia, she was defeated, albeit maybe a little underhanded tactic, but ultimately she did fall to Asuka, and as a result, that ends up leading us to a new champion. Now, as we did state earlier in the show, we don't have the new undisputed WWE Women's Championship yet. That is due to be here in, I think that one was October, maybe even into early November. So for the purposes of our show, we are going to continue to keep using the Raw Women's Championship for this particular one until we have the new one, and then we'll have some kind of, unboxing special or some type of special event that we can be able to use to commemorate that. So with that being the case, we will be moving Asuka's plates. We've seen them before. She's a multiple-time tag team champion, a multiple-time Raw and Smackdown champion, so her plates have appeared multiple times on our show. But she will be dethroning the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion in history, and that is, of course, the EST Bianca Belair. Bianca, of course, has been arguing with Adam Pearce over the last several weeks, as it looks like, despite the fact that the new belt has come out, immediately Charlotte Flair has returned and kind of jumped in line in front of Bianca, and as a result, Asuka's first defense of the new Undisputed Women's Championship is going to be this upcoming Friday on SmackDown in London, as she will defend against Charlotte Flair, with Bianca Belair already declaring, "I've got next." So it'll be interesting to see if the EST will keep her nose out of this match, as Adam Pearce has barred her from ringside. It'll be curious to see if Bianca, who's starting to kind of show her NXT side a little bit, you're seeing the stank faces and the different looks that we loved her for down in NXT, starting to reappear. Perhaps maybe a forthcoming heel turn coming up for Miss Belair, but she is obviously very interested in winning back her championship, especially under the circumstances of how Asuka ended up getting it. And then she feels disrespected because, it's like 400 plus days as champion, longest reigning women's champion of this modern era. And now not only does Asuka win it, and then 2 weeks after she wins it, all of a sudden she's getting a new title belt, and she's now referred to as the Undisputed Champion. So Bianca feeling a little bit perhaps disrespected. But it's been a while since we've had to do anything with Bianca's plates, but ultimately that will bring an end to her title reign, at least for now. Very, very good feeling that this will not be the last time we're seeing these plates, and possibly could be very soon. But ultimately her plates are going to disappear off of this one, and with that we will be bringing back out a very familiar set of plates, as this one has appeared on our show multiple times, and that is the Asuka plates for the new WWE Women's Undisputed Champion on SmackDown, and that is Asuka. So, now my question here is, this is kind of part 2, and each time I'm putting up a new belt or a new set of plates, I always try to either ask a question or give you guys a chance to interact with us a little bit. We made mention of the women's tag team titles earlier, so now let's talk about the new titles going to Asuka and Rhea Ripley, respectively. What do you guys feel about these new titles, and do you believe it brings, more allure and more credibility to the women's division in terms of that no longer being you're representing just your particular brand, but now you are given titles that, for the first time really in quite some time, feel like they have equal footing to the respective titles of the men. They look the same. They, essentially have the same level of meaning. So, you all of a sudden now look at them and say, okay, now you've got a credible champion in terms of not just your men's division, but also your women's division as well. So do you believe that, it brings more credibility to the division, especially with who you have as your first two champions in that of Asuka and Rhea Ripley? And along the same lines, I also present the question of, do you feel that, putting them at the upper echelon and having those championships having essentially the same value now as the men's titles, do you believe that puts more pressure on the women's division to now have to perform? I don't have any doubt that the women we have on our roster can certainly be able to get the job done. But just your curiosity facts in terms of, do you feel this headed the right direction? But with that, the exchange is complete. As I said, when we do have the new Undisputed WWE Women's Championship, as well as the new Women's World Title, we will definitely make sure that we get a special episode just for those. But for now, the Raw Women's Championship will continue to represent the Undisputed title until we actually can get our hands on it. So for now, the Asuka plates go on here. We will see her defend this upcoming Friday against Charlotte Flair on Smackdown in London before Bianca Belair has already declared she wants next. So with that, I've presented, a few questions for you. It's definitely curious to see your thoughts and your comments in terms of what you guys think about that potential prospect and how you feel about the future of not just the way that the new titles have come into play, but also how you feel that the storyline is run in terms of things you've seen maybe since WrestleMania. Of course, we try not to dig into dirt sheets too much, but of course there's always been discussions about, how much of Vince's fingerprints are technically still on episodes versus how much of it is run by Triple H and Shawn Michaels respectively on their shows. So you wonder about that. You also look at the different levels of storylines. We've seen, of course, the Bloodline now going into Civil War. Plenty of fun coming from that over the next few weeks and months potentially. But we are now looking forward to what appears to be a new era, especially in the women's division, as now you're seeing titles and respectability that come equal to that of their male counterparts. Also, of course, an expectation that now that they've fused the women's championships together, along, of course, with the men's being fused together for quite some time now, are they going to put them together into a single belt? And if so, I have to imagine that's forthcoming soon, especially with Pretty Deadly going on the bump last week as they get ready for their title match against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, that they already said they would create new belts should they win the titles. Maybe the perfect segue for that. But with that brings it into Plate Exchange. I'm getting ready for NXT Gold Rush here in just over 10 minutes. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Join us tomorrow evening as myself and Kia and Alyssa will both be back with us as we do our Top Rope Spoilers preview and prediction show, which is where we're going to discuss Money in the Bank, not only the championship matches, but also who's walking home with the briefcases. We'll give our predictions on, do we think there's going to be a cash-in in London, or do we feel that both sides are going to potentially wait until the right moment later on within the next calendar year? It's always one of my most fun events because once that briefcase has been held by somebody, you got to keep your head on a swivel if you're a champion because you just never know who's going to show up. But that is Plate Exchange. I'm Steve with On the Ring Apron. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you're watching us later, follow us on TikTok so that way you can see these things live when they come up. Otherwise, you see up in the right corner there all the different platforms we're on. We're on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Swarm, Instagram, and Facebook. Sorry, it's been a long work day, so I'm drawing a blank there for a moment. But either way, thank you so much. You guys enjoy Gold Rush, and we'll see you tomorrow for Top Rope Spoilers, and of course, our watch-along on Saturday for Money in the Bank. So again, Steve with On the Ring Apron. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.